We beseech you to look upon with your abundant favor these your servants whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of such important trusts in this land. Let your blessing descend upon them here assembled, and grant that they may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under their deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and advance the good of those whose interests you have committed to their charge.
Amen. Item number 2 on the other paper, communication from the chair.
Now, members, I welcome you to this afternoon sitting. Apologize for the delay. We had a number of policy meetings this morning, which took a bit of time, but I hope we shall be able to catch up with our day's work. Now we have just a few issues of national concern. The Honorable Adeke, the budget. I will leave you to sit first. Okay, settle down first. Honorable Kavaraisha, 2 minutes, please.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, I raise on matter of national importance. Right Honorable Speaker, on Sunday, in my district, Kamwenge district, the storm destroyed everything in sub-counties of Biguli, Buizi, in Kibale East constituency, sub-counties of Kamwenge Town Council, Kahunje Town Council, Kahunje Sub-County, Bigodi Town Council. It is now like a snow in our area. Those people who watched the TV West yesterday, they saw how devastated it was. So, Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, why I raise this as a national importance, we members of Parliament will appropriate money for Prime Minister's office and for disaster and preparedness. But it is so unfortunate that sometimes we raise these issues and we are not heard, and yet we are since we are having homeless people right now, people have lost all the crops because they have already planted. We are requesting the government to avail with us the planting materials like maize, beans, cassava, and everything, so that we can assist our people to plant since the season has just begun.
Information.
Okay.
You are sharing the minute.
Thank you. My colleague, Honorable Dorothy. Right Honorable Speaker, it is not only crops which are destroyed. Starting yesterday until today, I could not sleep because of volumes of calls from LC1 chairpersons and all the locals. But we've had some schools have also lost roofs. Some children are right now hospitalized in Rukunyu Hospital because they were damaged. They got damages as a result of the storms. So, Right Honorable Speaker, it is an appalling situation, and we really want to call upon government to come to our rescue. Thank you.
Okay, please conclude.
Thank you, my counterpart MP. Right Honorable Speaker, we are requesting the office of the Prime Minister to rescue our people because it is hurting to see Kamwenge district is one of the areas where we have the office of the Prime Minister, because we are hosting about 80,000 refugees who are being given assistance. It will be very bad to see our people having such a problems and they are not being assisted. So we shall be very grateful to hear from the government, and especially by going down to see the situation that is there, and it is alarming. I thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
So the Minister for Disaster Preparedness is directed to go to Kamwenge or send his agents to establish the extent of the problem, but to address it very, very quickly. It's not just the food, but even the schools are in a bad shape. Honorable Pamizo.
Right Honorable Speaker, I raise on the matter of national importance. The Minister of Agriculture, Animal Industries and Fisheries put a ban on sale of livestock and products in the month of March 2017 to date due to foot and mouth disease. Right Honorable Speaker, we are wondering why the ban has taken so long. Some people are selling their animals as if they are thieves at a cheaper price. Some government officials have made it a lucrative trade by allowing whoever sells a truck, every truck they are charging 500,000 as a stealthy method of getting money. Right Honorable Speaker, some children are unable to go to school because of that ban, and even we have not registered new cases of affected animals. Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, my friend. Madam Speaker, what is happening in his district, the same thing is happening in Nakaseke, it is happening in Nakasongola. Madam Speaker, I'm wondering that when you go to my constituency, the 3 markets in the 3 sub-counties out of the 6 sub-counties are open. There's other sub-counties, the markets are not functional. I'm wondering, can it happen that foot and mouth disease is happening in the 3 sub-counties and the other 3 sub-counties are functional? In the nearby sub-counties of Nakaseke, the markets there is still quarantine. Madam Speaker, I think we need to make thorough investigations so that we see how our farmers can be guided so that they can really handle foot and mouth disease. Thank you.
Okay, the Minister of Agriculture is directed urgently to come and address us on the impact of the ban, which has been on since March 2018, meaning that the livelihood of the people in that community is indeterminate. So it's urgent. We want an answer on Tuesday about the ban on the quarantine. Honorable Adeke.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I rise to bring to your attention and the attention of this August House the status of some Rwandan nationals who are being arrested by security forces and detained, not produced before court. Right Honorable Speaker, I have a couple of names that we should take note of. Vanessa Gasaro, Jessica Munyogera, and Right Honorable Speaker, in the Daily Monitor of 9th August, Thursday, 2018, it was reported that some Rwandan nationals resident in Kakumiro were arrested, and when their relatives tried to find out about their whereabouts, they were told to go to CMI. All the attempts to reach them have been futile. Right Honorable Speaker, aside the security concerns are the diplomatic relations with Rwanda, because I am aware that Rwanda National Congress has been accused of mobilizing within Uganda to destabilize the government of Rwanda, and it has greatly put our business interests in jeopardy. I have some young people who are doing business in Rwanda and have had to leave the country because of their concerns and their worries. In the interest of the East African community spirit, since we are all countries of the East African community, it would be important for the ministries in charge to inform us about our status with Rwanda, our diplomatic relations, as well as the security status of Rwandan nationals in Uganda, so that we can ask for the Rwandan government to reciprocate the same for our nationals there. Thank you.
Honourable members, now I don't know whether this should go to the East African Community Minister or to the Minister for Security. But let us ask the government to come and address us on the issues raised by Honorable Evaju next week. Honorable Joy Ongom, then Zogu.
Yeah, thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise on a matter of national importance. We have the Regional Referral Hospital in Elira, Right Honorable Speaker. But at the moment, the director is a retiree, and the status quo in the Regional Referral Hospital is alarming, Right Honorable Speaker. There are no specialists in the hospital, and interns used to go to that hospital, and everybody is well aware that it is the interns who help us more than the doctors, because most of the doctors are most times not available. But interns can no longer be there because the specialists are not there. The situation there is not okay. Above all, Right Honorable Speaker, there has not been power in the hospital for the last 3 days. The hospital is operating on Yaka, which Yaka, yes, they are paying, they have been put on Yaka. And we are wondering why government hospital should be paying on Yaka. I don't know whether we understand when I say it is a Yaka. It is not the other billing that used to be, but they pay on whatever they have consumed.
Now,
meaning that
remember, the matter for which you came to me was on absenteeism of doctors.
Yes.
Now you have moved to Yaka.
I've told you about that, Madam Speaker, that the hospital has not been operating. I mean, there has been no power in the hospital for the last 3 days. Yes, there has been no power in the hospital for the last 3 days, meaning that the theater, people who are supposed to be operated, are also not happening. People are being referred to a private hospital. So, Madam Speaker, I wanted the minister to assure us of what they are ready to do in the hospital now that there are no specialists, the director has retired, and the theater is not operational because of lack of power. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Yes.
Honorable Kamateka.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Joy, for giving way. Right Honorable Speaker, the information I want to give this House is that sometime back, I think in the 9th Parliament, we debated this issue of important installations like hospitals being on Yaka. And we agreed, we resolved that these installations could not be on Yaka, because you can be in the middle of an operation and the Yaka snaps. And so this is a serious matter. I do not know why this hospital would now be on Yaka rather than on constant supply of electricity. Right Honorable Speaker.
Let me invite the Minister of Health to respond to that issue.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I'll start with the issue raised by the Honorable Member of Parliament from Lira District regarding the absenteeism of specialists, the doctors. Right Honorable Speaker, we have time and again said that we are having a challenge. All our regional referral hospitals are supposed to be teaching hospitals, implying that interns are supposed to be posted there and trained by the senior consultants and consultants. However, Right Honorable Speaker, we've had a challenge. The Health Service Commission has advertised for these jobs. The pay for these consultants and senior consultants is still low, and they are not attracted to work for us in government. So, Right Honorable Speaker, those who have taken up these positions work once or twice a week. Until we address the issue of remuneration of these senior consultants, we shall not be able to attract them in our health facilities. We came up with an ideal structure. However, government could not be able to pay those wages, and we agreed that maybe in a phased manner we shall be able to address this. So until we address the issue of pay, because yeah, people are dying, but if a senior consultant is given 3 million shillings and he can be paid 10 million shillings in Kenya, in Rwanda, I mean, what attracts him, Right Honorable Speaker? Or even the private health facilities around. So, Right Honorable Speaker, that is our biggest challenge. The issue of absenteeism is because they work for government 2-3 days and they move to other facilities elsewhere. So slowly we hope that we shall be able to address this, but it remains a big challenge. And now that we are going into the next budgeting cycle, I think we need to look at this further, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, regarding the issue of electricity supply, most of our health facilities, Yaka would not be the problem. But the bigger problem is that I think the funds being given to health facilities is not adequate to enable them cover the electricity and water bills, the utility bills. And this has always been a challenge, but we've had discussions with the Ministry of Finance to see how best to support these health facilities. Thank you.
Honour members, I invite Honourable Nzogu. 2 minutes, please.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, on Tuesday last week, which was the 4th of this month, and also on Wednesday, which was the 5th of this month, September 2018, Right Honourable Speaker, I noticed unsuspecting people who trailed me. Yes, who trailed me the whole of Tuesday and the whole of Wednesday. And Right Honourable Speaker, even at my home, we are seeing unsuspecting people close to my perimeter wall. And Right Honourable Speaker, my life is in danger. I don't know why they are trailing me, Right Honourable Speaker. And you recall, Right Honourable Speaker, in the 9th Parliament, a similar incident happened. Then the Minister of Security was Honourable Karolo Krut, and I put the matter before her. And when I put the matter before her, I got some relief, Right Honourable Speaker. I don't know why, Right Honourable Speaker, in a country where all of us are citizens, that we are encountering situations which are unclear and actually expected. Right Honourable Speaker, I would like to seek your indulgence and to raise the matter before the Minister of Security, the Minister of Internal Affairs, and the Minister of Defense to assure me whether I am safe, Right Honourable Speaker. Because I am not sure that my life is safe. So, Right Honourable Speaker, this country, I think we are slipping into a situation where we cannot be sure of what's going to happen next. So, Right Honourable Speaker, I would like to hear from the said ministers as to why, and maybe whether I am safe and why they are trading me. I don't know.
Honour members, on Monday the Parliamentary Commission convened, and among the issues we discussed was the issue of security of members, and we agreed that those members who feel endangered, we shall ask the government to give them special attention, depending on the degree of concern to their security. So accordingly, I am now informing the Minister of Internal Affairs, take an interest in the Honourable Nzogu, so that he can be assisted, and then other members. But for other things, we shall tell you later. Now, Honour members,
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. No one in this country today or as we speak now is safe. Nobody. Madam Speaker, even those that have not yet gotten threats on their lives are insecure too. And I think we should not wait for tragedy to knock again. It's time, Madam Speaker, that as we as a parliament pronounces ourselves and say, enough is enough. Because somebody who wants to take somebody's life will not send even a signal. Tragedy just knocks suddenly. Madam Speaker, your members, maybe they have not gotten time to confide in you. They no longer stay in their homes. Some of them have taken up accommodation elsewhere, and I don't want to mention where they stay because of security reasons. Madam Speaker, it's time. It's time, Madam Speaker, that government prioritize the security of members and everybody else in this country. Or else, you might have, Madam Speaker, a request. You might have to communicate to the appointing authority that the leaders in the three ministries, defense, internal affairs, and security, should either two things be moved and some other people, probably that are up to the task, be formed for those jobs or those portfolios, or they tender in their resignations. Because how long and for how long are we going to continue with the sad, tragic news, Madam Speaker? Thank you.
Okay, honourable members, I did not want to go into details of what the Commission discussed. There are measures we are taking, but I don't want to talk about them. I don't want to publicize them. But there are measures which we are taking. Now, but of course we are concerned. In the District Treasurer's Gallery, we have a delegation from the Nairobi City Council Assembly, the Speaker's panel. They include Honorable Kennedy Obuya, member for Imara, Daima Ward. Honorable Anthony Kimemia, member for Harambe Ward. Honorable Evans Otisa, member for Kwaruben Ward. Honorable Jacqueline Apondi. Jacqueline represents the women. Honorable Sarah Smatara, member for Dandora. And then Adam Kibwana, the committee clerk. You are all welcome. Then we also have the young generation of Uganda. We have pupils and teachers from St. Kizito, Ediope Primary School in Arua, represented by Honorable Atiku there, and Honorable Maureen Osoru. Please stand up. Yes, there they are. Welcome. Thank you. Item 3.
Item 3, statement on the effects of the integrated financial management system on the budget operations of national medical stores, financial 2018-19.
Minister of Finance.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I want to make reference to the concerns raised in this House regarding the integrated financial management system on the operations of national medical stores. We did upload the statement on the iPads, and I will try as much as possible to summarize it. Right Honourable Speaker, the purpose of this statement is to provide clarification on the rationale of having national medical stores operate on the IMFs like any other government institution whose funding is charged on the consolidated fund as appropriated by this House. The integrated financial management system is one of the major public financial management reforms that was introduced and adopted by government to enhance accountability of public funds. It is a tool that facilitates tracking of budgets from appropriation to expenditure management and eventually to accountability. In addition, government abolished operations of government accounts in commercial banks and required all government institutions to open bank accounts in the Bank of Uganda to facilitate the operations under the Treasury single account, which was greatly improved the management of government. The management of government revenue and boosted the government cash flows. To date, all central government votes operate on this system and consequently execute all their transactions through this financial system. The National Medical Store is in this category, but 92% of its funds, which are for payment to suppliers of medicine, are spent on this system, and the remaining 8%, which is 22 billion, for operations and appropriation in aid budget from donors are processed off the system. As part of the budget preparation for 2018-19, all government ministries, agencies, and local government, including national medical stores, were instructed through the budget called circular to provide details of their budgets by item, where funds will be approved and expended. It's against this background that the national medical stores was required to break down their budget in order not to budget on one line item for medical supplies, which is meant for procurement of drugs and medical supplies. And yet some of their expenditures relate to operational activities, such as salaries, allowances, fuel, and etc., which were not being reflected appropriately. Prior to this, the national medical stores used to lump all their budgets under one item, 224001, medical supplies, when actually they spent some of the funds under their items contrary to the existing law. On the expenditure side, block transfers of funds were made from the consolidated fund to the National Medical Stores commercial bank account, and national medical stores would proceed to undertake their detailed transactions outside our main government system. This phenomenon circumvents detailed scrutiny of expenditure and constrains government reporting on actual aggregate expenditures. In line with this guidance, the call circular, all institutions, including national medical stores, were required to prepare and submit detailed budget estimates and work plans for financial 2018-2019 for the funds under the MTEF as well as non-tax revenue, which they spend as appropriation in aid. The national medical stores complied with this requirement, and the estimates were part of the ministerial policy statement for Ministry of Health appropriated by Parliament, and the money allocated at item level in line with appropriation by Parliament was duly loaded on this system. Out of the total budget for national medical stores, which now stands at approximately 300 billion, 75 billion was availed on our system for Q1 on 12th of July 2018 for warranting and spending by NMS. Accordingly, in order to implement the budget on the system, at the beginning of the financial 2018-19, Accountant General wrote to the national medical stores requesting them to submit details of their supplies so that they are entered on our system for them to start processing payments. However, NRM, rather National
Order.
I'm glad, Madam Speaker, that both sides of the House are happy to hear that. the national medical stores cannot operate, these were the reasons, cannot operate based on the provisions of the Public Finance Management Act 2015, which constrains reallocation to 10% of the level appropriated by Parliament. That is through the environment. The national medical stores operates other software systems that focus on procurement, storage, distribution of drugs across the country, which are not compatible with our system, and as such would constrain operations in the financial 2018-19. That the national medical stores receives off-budget support from other donors such as USAID, UNICEF, whose financial support cannot be accessed through the consolidated fund. Right Honourable Speaker, on page 5, on July 23rd, 2018, the Honourable Minister of Health and our ministry held a meeting involving the General Manager of National Medical Stores and other technical officers from the two ministries and discussed this matter. It was agreed that funds would be warranted and transferred to an operational account as an interim measure to avert delays in the service delivery, pending harmonization of our system and the other operational systems under the National Medical Stores. The General Manager of National Medical Stores was advised to submit his accounting warrant for Q1 for approval and the account details to Accountant General, where the funds for operations will be remitted. The General Manager, from the information that have been given, delayed to submit the information required of the issues above. However, the warrants were actually submitted on 1st August 2018, causing a delay of 1 month before the national medical stores could access funds for the first quarter. 3, donor funds shall be handled on a case-by-case basis, as is the case for the rest of the sectors, streamlining the management of both on-budget and off-budget modalities at national medical stores, with a view of utilizing a single system for consolidated budget management. And 4, a technical team has been set up comprising National Medical Stores, Minister of Health, and my ministry to further discuss the concerns raised by National Medical Stores. The main focus of the technical team is to study the impediments of our system, as well as the possibility of integrating our system with other systems operated not only by National Medical Stores, but even other sectors. In conclusion, Right Honourable Speaker and colleagues, it is our common goal to have an efficient and effective drug management value chain, but we must also ensure that there is transparency and accountability in the context of the Public Finance Management Act for the entire appropriation in line with the laws of Uganda. It is also important that we operate harmoniously, and my ministry is committed to seeing that national medical stores smoothly perform its mandate while at the same time complying with the public financial management legal and regulatory framework that governs all the votes. The system-related issues will be addressed by the joint technical team involving the Minister of Health, National Medical Stores, and the Minister of Finance. They will ensure an interface between the system operated by National Medical Stores and the integrated system, so that ultimately the National Medical Stores fully operates through the financial management system like the rest of government for all the monies appropriated by this Parliament. So, Madam Speaker, in conclusion, the issues which were raised then have been resolved, and we have put up a committee to follow up this issue, ensure that the two systems speak to each other so that the distribution of medicine is not affected in any way. I beg to move.
I just want to confirm whether the Minister of Health is satisfied with the update.
Right Honourable Speaker, following our presentation of the issue, of course we are responding through members' concerns that there were no medicines in the health facilities. We then held a meeting with the Ministry of Finance, it is true. And Right Honourable Speaker, what we want to make clear on the floor of this House is that National Medical Stores is not against operating under the IFMIS. The IFMIS for drugs, payment of drugs, medicines and other supplies, we have no problem with that. That is the 92% of the money that we send. The challenge comes when, because of the donors' money and also the 8%, which is money for the operations payment to the drivers who take these medicines to your districts, the allowances and so on. That's where NMS needed flexibility, and that's why Parliament in its wisdom directed that National Medical Stores be left to operate under the old system. Right Honourable Speaker, what I want to state, since there is a technical team from National Medical Stores and the Ministry of Finance and the Accountant General, let's allow the technical teams to come up with their report, and then we shall be able to report accordingly once their report is out, Right Honourable Speaker.
Thank you. We shall now ask our Committee on Health to remain seized of that issue, and if there are anything to report, they'll come back to us. Chair of Health.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. We foresaw problems when we are reviewing the budget, and we advised, but for a little while, we keep with the old system as they harmonize. Why this issue came is because there were shortages of rushing a new system. And this is a service industry where drugs, if you can't access drugs for 2 months, that's a problem. So finance was in a hurry, maybe to catch up with NMS over the other old loans, so they wanted to squeeze them very fast and see that they are the ones now responsible for not delivering the drugs. But our issue was that in the short run, we leave them as we harmonize. And this issue only came because Minister of Finance refused to follow the guidance of Parliament. And that's why complaints came here that there are no drugs. So and now they are setting up committees mid-cycle to sort out problems. Now you send back to committee. When the committee advised and they disobeyed, so it is really complex. So these people of finance, and I think there are some people in finance who are working to disorganize this government, because after we have increased the budget of NMS by 50 billion, then they come and make sure there is a shortage in the first quarter. So there are issues with Minister of Finance that we can't understand.
So what I've directed honourable members is that our committee continues to watch over the situation as we await the technical.
Madam Speaker, just a small clarification that finance follows the laws which have been made by this House. And I think the House should sympathize with us on that one. Because we passed the Public Finance Management Act so that every government institution passes through this system. So for the chair of the budget of the Health Committee to make any suggestion that we should not, because these ad hoc instructions do not repress the law. I thought that's what should be clarified here.
Item 4. Item
4 on the other paper, presentation of papers, motion for resolution of Parliament to authorize government to borrow up to $45 million from the Islamic Development Bank, IDB, to support technical and vocational education and training support project.
Honourable members, as the Minister of Finance comes, I want to introduce in the public gallery pupils and teachers of Kalongo. The Kalongo girls, where are you? Kalongo, they're on this side. Represented by Honourable Ogenga Latigo and Honourable Francis Akelo. You're welcome. On this side, we have pupils and teachers of Nangera Child Development Center. Is that you? Stand up. Represented by Honourable Robina Mukisa and Honourable Stephen Mayende. You're welcome. Yes, Minister.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay on the table the government request to borrow up to $45 million from the Islamic Development Bank to support technical and vocational education and training project in Uganda.
No members sent to the Committee of National Economy for perusal and report back. Item 5.
Item 5, laying of papers, Roman 1.
Commissioner Ogwa?
Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, I beg to lay on table special audit report on the cost of air tickets at Parliament. I beg to lay.
Roman 2.
5-2.
Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements of National Social Security Fund for the year ended 30th June 2018. I beg to lay.
Roman 2.
Finally, Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay special audit report on the defunct banks. I beg to lay.
Honourable members, they have sent to the relevant committees for perusal and report back. Item 6.
Item 6, the Mental Health Bill 2014, Bills Committee stage.
Honourable members, as you recall, yesterday we were at committee stage. Let us continue.
The Mental Health Bill 2014, Clause 9.
Members, the question is that Clause 9 do stand part of the bill. Chairman?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Clause 9, involuntary admission and treatment. Clause 9 is amended by 1, by substituting the head note with the following: involuntary admission and treatment. Justification to cater for involuntary treatment. 2, by substituting Clause 9 with the following: 1, a person with mental illness and prima facie requires treatment and care from a mental health unit, but is for the time being incapable of expressing himself or herself to receive treatment, may on a written request under this section be received in a mental health unit as an involuntary patient for treatment and care. 2, involuntary examination, admission, and treatment shall only be carried out at a mental health unit. 3, the request under Section 1A shall be in writing, addressed to the officer in charge of the mental health unit where the admission, treatment, and care is being sought, and shall A, be made by the relative of the person to whom it relates, or B, if there is no relative available or willing to make a request, by a concerned person who shall state in his or her application the reason why it is not made as provided in paragraph A. The connection of the requester with the person to whom the request relates and the circumstances in which the request is made. C, if the requester is not a relative, what steps were taken to locate the relatives in order to determine their inability to make the request. D, set out the grounds on which the requester believes the admission, treatment, and care are required. And E, state the date, time, place where the person was last seen by the requester before making the request. 4, an application referred to in subsection 1 may be withdrawn any time before a decision is taken. 5, on request of the on receipt of the request, the officer in charge of the mental health unit to whom the request is addressed shall within 3 days make a written response specifying the procedures to be followed for the examination, admission, and treatment, and thereafter shall cause the person to be brought to the mental health unit for examination. 6, the officer in charge shall approve the request only if it satisfies the conditions for involuntary admission, and shall, in writing, inform the applicant whether the person shall be admitted for involuntary treatment and care or not. An examination under this section shall be carried out as soon as practicable by 2 mental health practitioners, one of whom should be a psychiatrist, or where a psychiatrist is not available, a senior mental health practitioner. 8, on completion of the examination, the mental health practitioner shall submit to the officer in charge their written findings on which the person has mental illness and qualifies under subsection 9, and care. He or she shall A, within 48 hours after approval, cause the person to be admitted to the mental health unit for treatment. B, with the concurrence of any other mental health unit with the appropriate facilities, refer the person to that mental health unit. 10, where a person examined under this section can be treated at a primary health center, a senior mental health practitioner shall issue a community treatment order in respect of that person. 11, a person shall only be admitted as an involuntary patient where involuntary admission is the only means by which that person may be provided with care, treatment, rehabilitation that will benefit him or her. 12, involuntary admission shall be for a period of not more than 3 months unless the board authorizes extension of the period. 13, an involuntary patient may be discharged at any time as may be determined appropriate by the mental health practitioner who attended to the patient. 14, a person who willfully assists a person with mental illness from a mental health unit for and treatment to escape commits an offense and is liable to a conviction to a fine not exceeding 120 currency points or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 6 months or both. Justification to provide for a clear procedure to be followed for voluntary admission and treatment. Let's stop there. I think I'll stop there.
Let's do with that. Honourable members, the question is at clause 9. Yes, Honourable Secretary, then Honourable Anya.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I've listened into the justification, but my concern is on the draftsmanship. Clauses, under clause 9, subclause 5, 6, 7, 8, is more of a layman's language. I don't know whether the clerk was there to assist in the proper formulation. The content is good, but once you read it, the language, I fully agree with him on the content, but I thought it needed drafting to conform with the statutory formulation. And I don't know if I could be allowed to sit down with the chair, we skip over this so that we can put it in the proper legal formulation than this presentation, the way it is. The message is good, but you feel it's like...
objection raised from?
Where he is showing the procedure. On receipt of the request, and he goes on to explain. The officer under subclause 6, the officer in charge shall approve the request. An examination under this section shall be carried out. It's a description rather than a formulation.
Can we ask the legal drafts people to formulate it later? We could agree now, and then when they're doing the final text, they can improve the language.
Okay, let me see.
Honorable Lanya.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, the chairman talked of involuntary examination, admission and treatment shall only be carried out. Raising this. Yesterday, we agreed that there are many people who are trained in a psychiatric unit only to a mental health unit. What of if the doctor who has got knowledge on psychiatry, working in the Health Center 3, Health Center 4, can the treatment be done there? Yes.
Thank you, Right Honourable Chair. Chair, I just want to inform the Honourable Member that that is the purpose of the bill, because previously the treatment was limited, but now the purpose of this bill is to decentralize mental health services to the lower health facilities up to Health Center 3.
Honourable members, with the question, that clause 9. Yes, Honourable Ugandan.
Madam Chair, they say at the concluding part of it where he talked about discharging a patient, if the person who committed the patient to the treatment unit was not a relative, in this case the requester, at the point of discharging that patient, wouldn't it be proper for the health facility to write back to the person who requested for this patient to be treated that the person is now okay, or the person is now discharged, so that the person is exonerated from responsibility, just in case this man, after being discharged, disappeared. Maybe it should be something for debate. That's what I'm thinking. Somebody has been discharged, but he was committed to the health facility by a different person who only requested for that. Don't you think we need to write back to such a person so that he has something with him or her? Thank you.
Minister, have you got the gist of what he's proposing? I think he was saying that after the end of the treatment, patient has been discharged. He would want the person who made the request to be informed that this person is now going to the country.
Chair, I think that is okay. We have no problem with that. However, sometimes that is if the person can be traced. But in situations where the person could have volunteered at that time to sign on behalf of this person, but cannot be traced, then it may be a little difficult. But we're okay with his proposal, Chair.
But, Honourable Member, why should, if I've handed over the person to the government, why should it be my responsibility to keep on knowing and following up? No thanks. I don't think it's fair to pass that burden to a kind-hearted person who saw a sick man and said, the government here is your person.
Madam Chair, what I was trying to mean, you know, this society of ours is so difficult. You can be the good-hearted person, and then you make a request that let the person be examined because there's a problem mentally. After discharge, somebody comes one time and says, you are the one who took our person to a certain place. Where is the person? In case the person disappeared after treatment. That's just what I'm thinking about. It is for debate.
Chair, I think there are issues which can be handled in regulations, and there are issues which should be put in the law. I wouldn't be comfortable placing that under this act, because these are issues that can be handled under administratively, and the regulations can deal with that.
Honourable Members, I put the question that Clause 9 be amended as proposed. Those in favour say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Clause 9 as amended.
The question is that Clause 9 as amended do stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Clause 10.
The question, Clause 10? Clause 10? Honourable Secretary.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, Clause 9 provides for power of the police. I beg your pardon. Yes, Clause 10 provides for power of the police to effect involuntary or emergency admission. A police officer may enter any premises without a warrant where the health and safety of the person who is suspected to have mental illness, and if a person who has contact with a person suspected to have mental illness may be in danger if admission is not effected immediately. Right, Honourable Speaker, Chair, and members, this, even without this, we've received complaints from high-profile persons in this country where the police enters and forces a person that, no, he's mentally ill. You say, no, but I'm normal. But then you're dragged away that, no, he's a mental case. Now, giving a blank check, Right Honourable Speaker and members, even if you shout at you people, I'm normal, I'm not sick. They say, no, leave us. They've broken into the house, into your premises, they arrest you under the auspices of arresting a mental case. And this has happened and has been abused. And Right Honourable Speaker, bearing in mind that we passed Clause 9 and 8, where the relatives know very well, let the proper procedure be followed. But I've seen a case like Professor Kanyihamba, who was really manhandled, and in the process you end up being injected and subdued and handcuffed that you're a mental case, and embarrassed when actually you are normal. But someone wants to just subdue you, right from the Speaker. I propose to members, this Clause 10 serves no purpose. After all, where a mental illness can be gradual, can be sudden. And we have already provided for procedures of the relative reporting a mental case and how it is handled. But now for you to give power to the police to even break into your house, I tell you members, Even if you go onto the balcony and say, you people help, I'm normal, you see me, I'm normal. Your cries may go unheeded because they want to arrest you for a given motive. And by the time you are later found that you really had no mental case, already it would be too late. You would have been humiliated. They would have done whatever they want. So I propose that this is a standalone clause 10.1. I propose that, Right Honourable Speaker and members, you delete this clause from the bill.
Now, Chair, Right Honourable Chair.
Honourable members,
Chair.
assume you are in a factory in a confined space, and maybe there are 12 of you, and one of you is running around with a panga, a fellow worker. You are saying the police should not enter? I know maybe some mistakes have been made, but if there's a public outcry, you know, the manager says, come and help me, there's someone here with a panga in the factory. Should the police come?
Right Honourable Chair.
Yeah, Madam Chair, thank you. I want to support Honourable Tinga on part 1. Honest, Sechkubo. Honourable Sechkubo. Yeah, Right Honourable Speaker, that part 1 can be abused. I'll give a story that there's somebody who they wanted to loot his things on the car. And then when they reached somewhere stage, they said, this man is our brother, he's running mad, throw him out of the taxi. And these people looted the things. And when you are shouting, I'm not mad, they say, can't you see even the madness has increased? He's shouting. At least the second part which says, if there is a problem, I am really dangerous, we can do it. We have to put a human rights face into this law. Because when they say, enter my house and arrest me even without permission, I'm telling you, anybody can say, she has run mad, she's in that room. And automatically, you will be arrested, you are shouting, they say the madness has increased. Madam Chair, I want to beg that we retain part 2 and remove part 1. Thank you.
Minister for Labour, let's hear from the Minister briefly, then we'll go to Abala.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The reason why there was a provision, because we appeared as the Ministry of Gender and Labour in the committee, is that in our experience in dealing with the many remand homes where we have children that are in conflict with the law, there are so many instances where you need the intervention of the police, because in many cases these people are in emotion, in a state that is dangerous. But we made it very clear, and it doesn't appear here, we made it very clear that they should be in the company of the next of kin. And in the second part, I'm wondering why it is 24 hours, Madam Speaker, because we said that why should you arrest someone and then you wait for 24 hours to produce the person to the police? I beg to submit. I propose, Madam Speaker, that it should be within 12 hours from the time of arrest.
Madam Chair, I want to thank you so much and the committee. Now, I am in agreement with my friend, Sekubo here, on this part 1, because we all know the nature of the police in this country. First of all, they are brutal. Many of them are brutal. And because when they come to you, they come with all their full force, all their power from the sky up to down. It is in their hands. Now, if we agree in this kind of arrangement, you should be ready to see people having so many bruises with the kibokos, or they will have been beaten because of this type of arrangement. This kind of sweeping powers, I may not agree with him, Madam Chair. Secondly, you know, the most disturbing issue is these people are mentally disturbed. Most of them have been beaten. You can go to Kampala here. You can go to any trading center. And most times they are being beaten by people and the police. And if we are going to sanction this, it actually means that we're going to tell the police, can you do the needful? In my opinion, let's do away with one party area. We do away with it totally.
Now, honour members, before we proceed, I want to distinguish between 1 and 2. Number 2 is where a person has committed an offense and is suspected that he is actually mentally ill. That's part 2. The first one is about where in a certain environment there's someone suspected of being mentally ill, and he may be in danger, or the people he or she with may be in danger. So they're not the same. Okay, Nankabira, then we come here. Honorable Royal Guard, and then yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I do not agree with deleting Section 10. It is quite different from Section 2. Take a situation. Today, Madam Chair, we have got cases of drug and substance abuse. Take a scenario where somebody has gone into the situation of mental illness. And when will the police rush for a warrant? You want to save life. You even want to save this person who has got affected by mental illness. Madam Chair, many times even people who have got the situation do not know. I one time found a madman saying, people saying I'm mad. People saying I am naked. Am I naked? But the person was naked. So usually this person doesn't know the situation. It is yes absurd that maybe we fear for political reasons that it can be abused. We can only strengthen and improve on the language, but we need to retain it to save the situation, because there is no time when somebody is highly affected by the mental illness.
Honorable Atkins, then Ogan, then Carter.
Madam Chair, it's never my habit actually to repeat what somebody. I think maybe I could just connect this with a scenario. A colleague and friend of mine that were doing some adverse degree with, the mother was preparing a meal for her mentally ill daughter. And as she was trying to prepare a meal, the mentally ill daughter picked a knife and stabbed. And that was the end, tragic end of the mother. Now, Madam Speaker, I see the power and the need and urgency to live and sustain number 10.1 as it is. Only and on specific grounds that there is indeed an emergency and all conditions have been evaluated, point to the direction that if immediate action or intervention is not performed, certainly a tragic end or occurrence will occur. So I think under proper evaluation, Madam Speaker, we should really stay 10. It should be part of this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Ogan. Ogan, Kata, Olanya, then we go to Ayo, and we come back to the chair.
Madam Chair, I want to support what the Honorable Sechikubo really fronted. You know, society now has gone in a way that we cannot sometimes understand. And also with these current political systems that we have, where temperatures are high, somebody can decide really towards the elections to come and declare that this one is mentally what? Disturbed. The police come for you and drag you to the what? And you will be finished just like that. And Madam Chair, I think really where we want to, we should be very clear. When do we involve the police? At least we should involve the police in a situation where the party concerned, the affected person, has demonstrated violence. At least a violent person should be arrested by the police and delivered to where he's supposed to be taken. But not just anybody. Also in the law, I don't know whether there's a part which is expressly talking about the protection of people who are declared to be mentally what? Affected. If you just come and say, Now, Honorable, this one here is mentally what? Finished. What is there to secure such a person? A penalty, so that nobody can just walk up and say, this was mentally affected. What are the penalties? The law should be able to provide for that. Maybe there's already something within the laws. Thank you.
Now, honour members, I want you to address the head note. It's about involuntary admission. And if you read the provision, it says, for the purpose of effecting an involuntary or emergency admission, a police officer may enter any premises without a warrant where the health and safety of a person suspected to have mental illness and of a person who has contact with a person suspected to have mental illness may be in danger if admission is not effected immediately. It's not just walking around. There's a person there, it needs admission. There's no time to look for a warrant. This is what this question was about. Auranya then Kata.
Yeah, thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, you have guided very rightly. We shouldn't be thinking of the worst scenario every time. Here we are talking of when the person is in danger, assuming someone who is having mental health locked the door and started beating someone to death. The police should be given the authority to break the door and save the life of that person. Therefore, Madam Chair, this part is very important. We need to leave it for the safety of our people.
Kata, please close.
I think, Right Honourable Chair, for avoidance of doubt, the mention of police scares everyone. However, the way this section is structured is really about the power of the police in involuntary admission. Take a situation where a mad person, somebody under schizophrenia, the technical language they use, is stoning the whole market. And no one is risking to go and arrest this person. You definitely need the police. Our fear of abuse of this power by police can be taken care of under the Mental Health Appeal Tribunal, which is even here under this law later. Now, two, in some other jurisdictions, Chair, I need to be protected from Honorable Sechiko. Now, here again, Right Honourable Chair, there are forms that must be provided for in the schedule later attached to this bill. So actually I'm putting that as a notice. For this purpose of arrest when effected, there must be a form which is filled by the police officer, and it will be prescribed. It must be prescribed to this law. It must be attached to this law, so that we just take care of likelihood of abuse. For that reason, therefore, I think, members, it's in our best interest that we cannot curtail the power of the police. But if they are going to abuse that power, then we are going to provide for safeguards against the abuse.
Honour members are also, okay, Honour Bayo finally.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, Honourable Chair, I want to take the fear of Honourable Sechikubo that sometimes out of disagreement, maybe the father or son or mother has become violent in the home or domestic violence, they can call the police and say he has run mad and he's actually in the bedroom with a panga, with a spear, so go and get him. That can happen, and it has happened. We have one story that happened and somebody was taken to Butabika. However, Right Honourable Speaker, I think we should keep this provision on Section 1 and only have a disclaimer that the police must ensure that within 2 days that person is reassessed to see if he's actually mad or not, so that we leave the responsibility of police, even when somebody is so violent with the knives, with the sharp things, police can now be called in to go and take responsibility of arresting that person. We lost somebody in our district recently in Apache, where a granddaughter became so violent and hit the grandmother and she passed on. So in such a situation, everybody would be in fear. So
So there will be need to have police also involved. There are these instances where we have dealt with the police, but in making the law, I think we should have a blind law. It is only now dealing with the police that comes in. So I would pray to members that we keep this provision on Section 1. Thank you.
Members, I also want to advise that we don't interfere with 10.2, because if you read carefully, it's about the police officer taking this person for assessment. You can't do it in 12 hours. Suppose you pick him at 6 in the evening. Where will you take him at night? Before 6 in the morning. Let's leave the 24 hours because it's really for assessment. Honour members.
Madam Speaker.
I want to thank you, Right Honourable Chair. Chair and members, taking into account the concerns of members, we need to be very careful when we are legislating against trying to whittle down the provisions of the Constitution. But I'm also aware that there are those scenarios, those situations that warrant the immediate intervention of the police. But the right to privacy of a person, home, and other property is well provided for under Article 27 of the Constitution. So I would propose that once we agree to move against this article, we should take due concern and care to provide for the proper safeguards. And therefore, Right Honourable Speaker, can we have an opportunity to relook again at this clause so that later we can put in some safeguards without leaving it open the way it is?
Honour members, a mad person will wait for you, wait outside the tree. That's where you find him. Don't enter his house because it's his private house. He's sitting there with his spears.
Madam
Chair. Honourable Afande the Minister.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I've listened for the two sides. Those for deletion and those who are supporting to retain the 1 and 2. The fears of my good friend Honorable Sechkubo is the practical fear of the police and the majority of my colleagues, that the assumption, the bias the police may have. But I think it would not be fair for us to legislate having at our back the fear of the police, having explained to us and guided us that a scenario where somebody is coming in with a panga, and because we are fearing and we are letting life to go. And many examples are vivid in our society. I would think that the bias of the police, the assumption of the police of saying, oh, my colleague, Honorable Sechkubo, or me is mad when he's not mad, can be taken care of at a certain stage. So I would also appeal to my colleagues that we retain both, because both of them, 1 and 2, are different, and would be doing a disservice to ourselves and to the nation, because we are to legislate in anticipation of how somebody will be, maybe, I'm saying maybe, mistaken to be mad. Even excitement can make one to be believed is mad when not mad. So, Madam Chair, I think for the purpose of moving on, we should retain all 1 and 2, and there are safeguards that can save us from the bias of the police. So I appeal to the members
I put the question that was
move
10
on.
to stand part of the bill. Those in favor say the contrary, no. I serve it.
Clause 11.
Clause 11. Are we on clause 11? Yes, Honorable.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Chair. I have been listening into most of the members submitting, and as far as I understand, this bill is not about madness. It's about mental health. And so when we debate with the perspective of a mad person in mind, we're not going to bring out the correct bill. We're not going to have the right inputs in this bill. Mental illness is not necessarily madness. It can be a state of stress, psychological stress or something, but not madness. So when we debate and we are talking about madness, then this bill does not apply. So would we be proceeding rightly by focusing on madness, and yet the bill is talking about mental health?
Honourable members, the bill is clear, so let's go to clause 11. Honourable Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before clause 11, I want to substitute the subtitle immediate after clause 10 with the following: special treatment options. Justification: the treatments provided in clause 11 and 12 are treatment options given to patients under the different types of admission, as long as the mental health practitioner deems the treatment to be in the best interest of the patient. Then insert a new clause immediately after the subtitle to read as follows. 1. The special treatment options such as electroconvulsive therapy, seclusion, psychosurgery, and bodily restraint shall be provided only after exhaustion of all other treatment options. 2. The procedures shall be applied under the authorization and supervision of a psychiatrist. Justification: to eliminate possible abuse of the special treatment options.
Honourable members, put the question at clause 11. Yes.
Honourable Chairperson, I'm sorry I cannot stand here. Honourable Chair, I thought that the chairperson was going to rule out the option of that one. Yeah, because in the report of the UN Special Rapporteur against torture, they described that kind of treatment as torture. Also, in the concluding observations of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, this kind of treatment and seclusion was regarded as torture. And actually, the UN treaty body on the CRPD called on Uganda to amend the Mental Health Act. And while amending the Mental Health Act to do away with this kind of treatment and seclusion. Honorable Chair, the persons suffering mental illness have testified saying that when they undergo this kind of treatment, one lady testified that she even lost memory. She couldn't remember her children, that they broke their teeth. So in whatever way, I would like to propose that we completely do away with this kind of treatment, Madam Chair.
Are you in breach of the convention?
Right, Honourable Chair, I want to inform the members that this is one of the recommended treatments by WHO. So it is not that we are breaching anything, and once WHO has agreed to a form, we cannot do away with it. I don't want to believe the story, because if the person had mental challenges, I'm wondering how the person could remember that. Yeah, because if she lost memory, then how could she be telling the story of what happened when she was in the treatment? So I don't think that's the case. But Chair, what I want to state. Okay, I'm not doing it. Chair, what I want to state is that WHO recommends this, and there are safeguards, and that's why we said it must only be done on the recommendation of a psychiatrist. Not anybody can.
Clarification, Chairperson, I don't agree with the minister, and I think she's still abusive. this is what people who are undergoing this kind of treatment. Madam Chairperson, this kind of treatment they are giving, somebody is put under electricity. How I wish maybe she can experience it.
Let's hear from the chair. Let's hear from Dr. Bukenya.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Order, please.
Madam Chair, during the committee interactions with the different interest groups, this issue was brought up. And we first of all, we consulted with the psychiatrists. We went to Nairobi also and asked why they practice. And also we read the WHO recommendation. What Honorable Safia is talking about is the old model, which is not recommended by WHO now. Now, when you are going to undergo this treatment now, first, if you can consent, yes, you consent, but it is done under anesthesia. You don't feel anything. You are put under anesthesia, and this procedure is done in about 30 seconds, and it ends. And there are no scientifically better alternatives available. And yet the practitioners insist that this is the last resort effective treatment. Thank you, Madam.
Right Honorable Chair, when I had problem with my hand, paralysis, and I went for tests of whether the veins are working well, I was actually given an examination where electric power was passed through me currency, and it's so painful. Doctor, you are shouting. But the doctor wants to see the recording on the machine. And later, finally, he comes up with his report. Now, when it comes to electroconvulsive, we have called it therapy. When you call it treatment, even under torture, when electroconvulsive approach is used under torture, they call it degrading treatment, human and degrading treatment. One of them is electroconvulsive treatment. In other words, it has been applied for the purpose of torture. But here, where it is applied as a therapy, it is applied with a lot of medical, cautions, proceedings. And then here, Right Honorable Chair, actually sometimes you don't need to administer this on somebody who is so mentally sick. This is also administered on drug abusers. The science is that it is supposed to separate the pathogens, which is in your system, and then there's a way with the electric power, they burn off the pathogens so that you get some relief due to too much, toxins that you've consumed from from marijuana or from whatever drug you have been abusing. So in a nutshell, when we put it as a therapy here, I think, because it's even a treatment of last resort, I think we should leave it here. If we don't leave it, the international standard is that they allow it. Except later I will bring an amendment that it should not be applied on children without laid down procedures. That is where I think I will bring, but I don't have an issue with it, Right Honorable Chair. It's a very good therapy.
Honourable members, join me in welcoming in the public gallery pupils and teachers of Faith Homes Primary School. Is that you? Kapchora? Ati? This Davani? Are these from Kapchora? Okay, on this side of the house, pupils and teachers from Faith Homes Primary School, represented by Honorable Rukia Chekamondo and Honorable Kenneth Soyeko. Please stand up. These are from the highlands of Kapchora. You're welcome. When I get the information on this side, I'll let you know who they are. They said Davani, that was Busia. Please get the right information about these children here. Honourable members, I put the question that close. Yes, Honourable.
Madam Chair, what I was trying to suggest.
We are here. Honourable Sogu.
I basically have some doubt in a patient who's actually has been defined as a patient to give consent. And Madam Chair, I don't know whether the committee did take interest in possibly exploring other mechanism of maybe having someone next of kin. Yes, yes, because Madam Chair, I was also looking at the fine which the person who possibly performs the electroconvulsive therapy contrary to this section, and the money is simply very peanuts. This may not deter people from...
We have not gone there
this.
yet, please.
Yes.
We have not gone there. We have not gone there. On the members, I put the question that consent be amended as proposed. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it. Hmm? Oh, sorry, it's a new clause, eh? Okay, I put the question that a new clause being started as proposed. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Clause 11.
Clause 11, Honorable Chair.
Clause 11.
Under 10, under 11. That's what we're doing. You are moving ahead of us. Yes.
Clause 11, electroconvulsive therapy. Clause 11 is amended in subclause 5 by deleting the word 30 appearing immediately after exceeding and substituting the word with the word 180, and for the words 15 months, the word 18 months. Justification: to ensure safety of the patient by giving a deterrent sentence.
Honorable, you can now raise your issue.
Madam Chair, I am not actually even comfortable with what the committee has proposed, because this is a matter of life, right honorable. And my proposal was that we could put it at 300, so that anyone who does it without the consent of the patient or the next of kin knows that he will pay heavily, and this can deter people from conducting such kind of procedures without necessarily getting the consent. Currency points.
Minister, what's your position on that one?
Chair, considering that this kind of therapy is not supposed to be given anyhow, and is something that should come as a last resort, I think a person who abuses this, I actually have no objection to the proposal to increase it to 300, and even the imprisonment, I think the 15 months should also be extended to at least not exceeding 3 years maybe.
You know, honourable members, I really wish I've been talking about the need to present proposals early enough, we think about them. But no, when you move, so, you know, drastic amendments on the floor, I've not had time to evaluate the 300 currency points vis-a-vis the 3 years. Yes, Honourable Atkinson.
Yeah, Madam Chair, while I agree with Honorable Zoe and the Minister, I'll reinforce that with suspension of the officer, or depending on the extent or magnitude of that offense or oversight, their practicing licenses could be revoked. We should put that a provision, because what happens if somebody has 1 billion shillings and you're just talking about 300,000 currency points? Money might not be his or her problem. But since we are handling somebody abusing the profession, I would encourage you, Madam Speaker, to explore the possibility of putting in building a suspicion, and also after a clear evaluation of the extent of abuse oversight, revoking the practicing license. That's the reason why a doctor will be so concerned about losing their practicing license than the fine, because revoking the license means the loss of a livelihood, and they would put or attach a lot of meaning to some of these professional duties.
Now, honourable members, of course what you're saying is important, but in many professions there are different areas for discipline. For instance, with us we have the law council, I think there's the medical council. I think let's leave that part to, unless the minister wants it, but I thought we should leave it to the
Chair, we have the Uganda Medical and Dental Practitioners Council, which actually deals with such issues. But what I wanted to say, Speaker, we are okay with the proposal by Honourable Nzo regarding the currency points, and I wanted to suggest, based on your advice, that you give the legal team time, because the currency points should match the years. So allow the legal team to look at the laws and match, and maybe revert to us before we go for the third reading.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I still have a fundamental problem. That this is a bill that borders on life and death. And there is no better intervention to put in place than saying, look, if you made a mistake, this will be forwarded to, this would invoke a disciplinary action. And suspicion, Madam Speaker, and also their standing in the profession matters a lot. I would rather, Madam Speaker, that we leave this open to suspicion upon, of course, proper evaluation, just like the ministers mentioned. But currency points, that's not adequate enough.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Just to augment the point I think my colleague is making, the different bodies, like in this case I think it's the dental and the medical and dental practitioners council, has already set in place a method or system of disciplining or taking action on these people, on any errant doctors or medical practitioners who may make some professional mistakes, especially deliberately. Now, are we legislating this on top of the action taken by the concerned council, or we are providing this as the alternative punitive measure for the council to adopt, and not necessarily allowing the council to take its punitive measures? Well, for example, what if the council, like we are saying, deregisters the medical practitioner? Then would he be deregistered and on top of that pay the 300 currency points? I think this is what we are looking at. We need to be guided. Thank you.
Honour members, I think let's leave the professional bodies do their disciplinary work. Because in any case, in this law, I don't know whether we even have a tribunal to handle that issue. To handle discipline? To handle discipline? No.
I'm really sorry for this. This is my last submission on this one. Madam Chair, as one of the topmost lawyers in the country, any bill or every bill that comes on the floor should clearly spell the rights, duties, responsibilities, and obligations. And also the same bill should be in a position to put forward enforcement procedures and mechanisms. And the moment we lose that at bill processing level, then it becomes difficult for the enforcers because the particular bill misses the relevant citation. Because if in the event that somebody abused, which law are you going to cite? Especially if that is not catered for in this particular bill. So it's very important, Madam Speaker, Madam Chair.
Right, Honorable Chair. The spirit of this law is that you bear the burden or carry your cross for your mistake that you do, and especially this electroconvulsive therapy. And that's why the punishment is providing for this particular section immediately. Any other intervention by professional body concerned is simply administrative. But here we are talking of your mistake under this particular therapy, under this particular section. You must pay for it. It is to deter a psychiatrist or any other clinician and so on from acting ultra-vires, especially when you're administering electroconvulsive therapy. Right, Honorable Chair, my only contention is, bone of contention is on 2B. Now, an approval of electroconvulsive therapy by a psychiatrist must take into account whether the patient can consent. Now, for children cannot consent, or consent of children or whatsoever is guided under our Children's Act. That's why I was like, this therapy to be administered for children who have mental case, we must ensure that we provide strictly an additional provision, especially because this whole therapy relies on consent. And the children, by definition, I think up to 16, 18 years. So how do we handle that? That would be the only bone of contention. And if the chair can agree with us, and we'll see.
Dr. Afande.
Chair, allow me to state that this therapy is not used for treatment of children with mental disorders. So it's not supposed to be applied. Yeah, yes, we can state so, but it's not supposed to be applied on children. It's okay, we can insert it, no problem, no harm.
Honourable members, join me in welcoming in the public gallery pupils and teachers from Dabani Boys Primary School, represented by Honourable Gideon Onyango and Honourable Nabulindo Jane Kova. These are from Busia. They are here. Welcome. Yeah, I'll let you know which group is this side when I get the information. So you want to say for the avoidance of doubt, this treatment is not, children not eligible for something like that?
The standard treatment guidelines for childhood mental disorders don't qualify for this treatment. So, like, I mean, if you have malaria, I can't treat you for HIV. So I don't need to put it here. That's what we thought.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I thought that maybe the chair of the committee would guide this House as to which recommended procedure therefore would be taken for children who have mental problems. So because even children are mentally, there are some children who are mentally disturbed. So which procedure are you therefore proposing so that then we also have that?
Okay,
yes.
Honourable members, let me propose something that for the avoidance of doubt, electroconvulsive therapy shall not be administered to children. Is that okay? Okay.
Children, Madam Chair, anybody between 1 and 18 years, yet they are some eligible age bracket from 12.
So you want to put the age bracket in the law?
But once you say children,
so what do you want us to say?
We are here prescribing what the technical persons, the doctors.
What do you want us to say?
The doctors.
You make a proposal.
I wasn't. I hadn't looked at it closely, but what I know is that we are trying now to put a stop to the medical doctors who may, with the advancement of science and technology, they might find children of between 10 to 18 years. As you have said, that there are safety valves, candidates for this treatment, Chair.
So what do you want us to do? You want us to say something about children. I've made a proposal. You are still fighting against the proposal. What do we do?
Madam Chair, let's leave out the whole thing.
Madam Chair,
just continue.
I think I'm on flow, sir. Brigadier, what are you saying? Okay, right, Honorable Chair. I go with what you're saying. And we don't need to break down or cluster children because our laws are very clear on the prescription of children or who a child is or the age bracket. So age bracket, Madam Speaker, in this scenario may not really be necessary. Thank you.
Honourable members, I put the question that clause 11 be amended as proposed. Those in favour say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Clause 11 as amended.
Put the question that clause 11 as amended to stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Clause 12.
Honourable Chair.
Clause 12. Oh.
Clause 12.
Seclusion. Clause 12 is amended. 1. By substituting subclause 5 with the following. A patient shall not be kept in seclusion consecutively for more than 24 hours. Justification: to protect the patient from negligent behavior of the medical practitioners. 2. By substituting in subclause 8 the words 30 appearing immediate after exceeding with the words 180 and the word 15 with the word 18. Justification: to ensure safety of the patients by giving a deterrent sentence.
Are we in keeping with the other currency points of part? They are the same.
These are in keeping with the previous ones on ECT.
Okay. Mm. Yes, Honourable.
Chair, 12(1), a person shall not cause the patient to be held in seclusion at a health unit, which is not a mental health unit. Chair and members, this presupposes that our country has adequate mental health facilities, and this may not be tenable on the ground. What I would propose is, say once you visit a health center, the doctors there can find a room as a temporary measure to put you under seclusion for onward reference to a mental health unit. Right, Honourable Chair, I come from the villages, and I know there are not many health facilities that have mental health units. So for us to presume that indeed at each and every corner of mental treatment there is a mental health facility would be overstating. And therefore, I would propose that a person shall not cause a patient to be held in seclusion except at a health unit or a mental health unit. For us to completely lock out the health unit and say seclusion can only be at a mental health unit would be exaggerating our health system and standards, right, Honourable Chair.
Madam Chair, I think just to improve the amendment by Honourable Sechkubo, it is not that a person shall not be held, shall not cause another to be held in a health unit which is not a mental health unit.
I think we can say that a person shall not cause a patient to be held in seclusion at a health unit where such provision is not provided for. Meaning that they can seclude them in a health unit where a provision for seclusion is made. That amendment caters for the interest in other health units.
What is the mischief we are trying to cure?
Chair, allow me to inform the House that we have, although we have not tackled the definitions, but we define a health unit as any government hospital, and it includes the primary health centers and any other government and non-governmental hospital. And we go further to define the mental health unit as any building or part of a building appointed by the minister under this act or by a statutory instrument for admission, treatment, and care of persons with mental illness. And Right Honourable Speaker, as I indicated from the beginning, is that we've been having challenges with mental health units across the country. Services have been limited to regional referral hospitals and a few general hospitals. But as we speak now, Chair, under this bill, we want to decentralize this service to the lower health facilities. And across the country, in almost all sub-counties, you'll either find a government health center 3, or you'll find, where there is no government health center 3, there could be a private or private not-for-profit health facility, which can provide this service, Chair. So I don't know, to me, Chair, I want to propose that this particular clause be left as it is.
There's some children there.
Chairperson.
Yes, Honorable Carter, then Mankabula, then Awoga.
Right Honourable Chair, a second look at this clause 12.1. A person shall not cause a patient to be held in seclusion at a health unit which is not a mental health unit. The general presumption is that seclusion is only for mental health patients, is only done in mental health unit. That is presumption number one. Number two, even by the reason that this facility is a mental health unit, you should not just subject a person to seclusion for the sake of it. That is what the spirit is. So therefore, 2 goes ahead and says, okay, although it is prohibited for any person to hold someone in seclusion, however, 2, a patient in a mental health unit may, where necessary, be kept where necessity arises. Where necessity arises, you can be kept at seclusion. That takes care of what actually my brother. Yes, it does. Because, Right Honourable Chair, the general rule 1 is setting is that no person should hold someone in seclusion in a facility which is not a mental health unit. So in other words, we have ruled out any facility, medical facility which is not a mental health unit. You cannot hold any person in seclusion in that health unit. And the minister is saying, for the benefits of Ugandans, at regional referral hospital, they have allowed as a mental health unit, a regional hospital, referral hospital, to be used as a mental health unit. Therefore, in a health center 3, like in Erusi, where I come from, my sub-county, or a general hospital like in Nebi, you should not hold anyone there in seclusion. It's not allowed. Now, even when now you are in, for example, in a rural referral hospital, and you're working there, there must be necessity for you, where it's even still marked that this is a mental health unit. There must be necessity, my honorable members. To hold someone in seclusion means you are taking this person detached from anyone for the number of days. It's more of detention. If you look at it, you are confined. So we should not allow people to be confined anyhow. This is what this law is doing.
Madam Chair.
Chairperson.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to concur with Honorable Sechkubo on this one. We have districts, I'll give you a case of mine, where 50% have no health center threes, where in such an arrangement, you only have health center twos, but locally, for provision of services, they have made express provisions, for example, to have like some maternity beds for people to have treatment. You have mental health practitioners who now they make program for how to access areas to give treatments on specific days. McHugh, this is not a health center 3, but just for purposes of providing services and to assist our people not to travel the long distances. We have sub-counties where from one sub-county to another point is more than 12 kilometers. Madam Chair, that's where I concur with Honorable Sechikubo. Today, as long as the Ministry of Health has not provided all sub-counties in the country, including mine, where 50% of the district does not have health center 3s, I agree with Honorable Sechikubo that we have a provision where a health center, not a mental health unit, a health center where the health practitioners and the leadership of the area, the administrators, have agreed to provide services in the interim for people to get mental health services.
I think let the chair give the clarification as he comes. Join me in welcoming a delegation from students from African Center for Legal Excellence. I think that is you. Okay, welcome. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For purposes of clarification, our subtitle was Special Treatment Option, and we inserted a clause saying these procedures shall be applied under the authorization and supervision of a psychiatrist. That is the first clarification. 2 is that seclusion rooms are specific and have special specifications according to WHO, and you don't find them in any health unit. And because seclusion is to a certain extent, people take it as a human rights violation. You can't just do it anywhere. So that is why we're insisting that it has to be a mental health unit where there is a psychiatrist who has authorized and is going to supervise. But if you want to put in a health center too in Zimbabwe, then we are going to cause problems.
So, honourable members, please look at the provision carefully. This seclusion of patients. The provision says 12.1, a person shall not cause a patient to be held in seclusion at the health unit, which is not a mental health unit. So you can only seclude at the mental health unit.
That's okay.
Yes. On members, I put the question that was 12. Yes, Honorable Safi.
Honorable Chair, seclusion is torture in its first form. However, without any option, people who have actually experienced this have told us that the way it's administered, somebody is put in a dark room, very cold. Imagine that person is put there when he's actually naked because they fear that somebody can tie himself maybe around using whatever they clothe. There is no light, there is no toilet. So I would like to propose, Chairperson, as you finalize on this one, that 12 number 4, the authorization to keep a patient in seclusion shall be in writing and shall indicate the period for which it is given, and actually the place shall be habitable, at least with some of those facilities, like a toilet.
You are suggesting that the director of the mental health unit will allow a person to be secluded in the toilet?
Clarification, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, some clarification. Madam, some clarification. Yeah.
Come back here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, this seclusion is not in bad faith. And I had an opportunity to practice at Butabika Mental Hospital. This is done to safeguard the life and the health of the patient as well as the other people around the patient. And the rooms used are prepared in a way that they cannot even harm this patient. It is good. In an instance where you cannot calm this patient down using drugs, you definitely have to keep this patient in a safe place. Can you imagine there are even mattresses? Like if you enter studios, like when you go to a studio, the walls are cushioned so that in case this patient is fighting, nothing will happen. So it is purely in good faith, it is protective, and no one should get worried about this. I have seen it being done, and I can assure you, whatever has been put in this clause is okay. I beg members to, just keep it up. It is good.
Put the question that was told me amended as proposed. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Clause 12 as amended.
Put the question that was 12 as amended to stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Clause 13.
Clause 13, is there an amendment?
To transfer clauses 11, 12, 13, and 14 of the bill and place them immediately before part 3 for sequential flow of the bill.
Honourable members, the question is clauses 11, 12, 13, and 14 be moved to part 2. Are you creating another part? So to be in part 2. Okay, our legal team will sort out the sequential flows. Clause 13.
13.
Put the question clause 13 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Clause 14.
Put the question that clause 14 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Clause 15.
Put the question that clause 15 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no.
Clause
Ayes
16.
have it. Clause 15, 16.
16.
Honourable Chair. We are about to finish.
Clause 16, absence without leave. Clause 16 is amended by substituting the last 3 lines with the following: commits an offence and is liable on conviction to a fine not exceeding 120 currency points or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 6 months or both. Justification to determine
16 what? Where are you?
the last 3 lines of the whole clause.
16.3
Yes.
or 16.4?
After
16.5.
yes, should be 16.5. The last after B, what would have been C? To deter possible offenders from assisting patients to escape before they receive full treatment.
Now, members, the question is that a new clause be added at the end of clause. Clause 16. Okay, clause 16.5C be amended by the addition of the proposal made by the chair. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no.
Clause 16 as amended.
Put the question that clause 16 as amended do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no.
Clause 17.
17, Honourable Chair.
Clause 17, staff of mental health unit permitting escape of a patient. Clause 17.5 is amended by substituting for the word 30 immediately after, exceeding with the word 180. Justification to deter staff of mental health units from abusing their authority by conniving to permit a patient leave the mental health unit without following the proper procedures.
Members, the question is that clause 17, sub-clause 5 be amended as proposed. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Clause 17 as amended.
19 or 17? Put the question that clause 17 as amended do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it. Yes? Are you on clause 17? We are through with it.
Clause 18.
Clause 18. On 18. We have finished 17.
Madam Chair, they have quoted there clause 17.5, but when you look at the bill, unless if the one I have is not what everybody else has, it has only, it's a standalone clause. There are no sub-clauses. Unless if the one I have is not like the one of the rest.
So, but you're the one who gave me this. You correct the error.
Yes, Madam Speaker, that was a typing error of adding 5.
So, what, that amendment is on clause what?
It's still on 17, but amended by substituting 30 with 180.
So the sub-clause 5 was a mistake?
Yes, 5 is not on, but it is clause 17.
Okay, you
yes.
propose the statement.
Clause 17, staff of mental health unit permitting escape of a patient. Clause 17 is amended by substituting the word 30 immediate after exceeding with the word 180. To deter staff of mental health units from abusing their authority by conniving to permit a patient leave the mental health unit without following the proper procedure.
Now, you know when you amend the currency point, you also amend the detention. You're only addressing the currency point.
Chair, I think since members were not objecting to this, the 180 days, I think we shall leave the legal team to
No, but you cannot address the currency point without addressing the sentence.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that the legal team should look at the 180, what does it match with in terms of the months? Because we had already done this for the 300 currency points earlier.
Yes.
I thought that this would have had a consequential consideration because we agreed on 300, and the spirit in which most of the fines for the various offences, Madam Chair, they had indicated the 180, and we amended it to actually be 300 currency points. So I thought that we would therefore carry this and have consequential consideration for all these offences.
But all the offences, do they all merit the same currency points?
Madam Chair, look at, for example, we are talking of seclusion. And we are also saying someone who assists a patient to escape. They are almost in the same direction, and it would be fair that all these have a similar offense, and the fine should almost be similar. I don't know.
We are not going to legislate like that. We should be specific on every issue. You cannot say that, I think this one might be big, let you go with here. You remember.
Chair.
Yes, no.
Madam Chair, this is a good one as you've guided. The current response must be seen to be matching with with the well, it's also a sentence, with the other alternative, which is imprisonment, the confinement, custodial sentence. If you're paying fine of 30 current points, and every current point here is 20,000. That is 30 times 20,000, that's 600,000. The current point in the schedule, I've checked in the schedule, is 20,000. So we would be interested to know, every punishment or sanction must have a rationale. And you are saying this is a very serious offense, that you are raising it to 180 current points. That is 180 times 20,000, that is 3.6 million for any staff of a mental health unit permitting an escape of a patient. And here, as it was proposed in the bill, you think that is not enough. I think you're creating an offense. Madam Chair, this is my view. You're creating an offense and you're backing it up with the punishment. If getting to 180 is going to be the greatest offense here, the punishment here, I think we would rather maintain as it is. The 30 current points with 18 months. The mathematics of 180 current points would be something that can even be challenged as either improportionate sentencing or punishment that given the offense. Yes, information from Kanyambura.
Honorable
Thank you, Honorable Both, for giving way. Right Honorable Speaker, there should be some logical relationship between the 30 currency points mentioned here and the imprisonment for the term not exceeding 18 months. Now, if you go for 180 currency points and you keep the term of imprisonment not exceeding 18 months, I think we may lose the spirit of the original spirit of the legislation. I thought I should give information. We are safer staying with what we have, the 30 currency points, or the alternative of the imprisonment not exceeding 18 months, than going into the mathematics or the equating the 180 currency points and whichever length of imprisonment that would come up with again, which might be much bigger than expected.
Thank you for that very useful information. And we are not only talking about the current, the discretion is on the sentencing magistrate. Can actually say 30 current points or imprisonment, not exceeding 18 months, which can also be, or both. That's why you find the pronunciation, my name is easier. It's even in sentencing, or both. You can be given both. So will that be fair? Madam Chair, I seek the indulgence of the chairperson of the committee to concede to this proposal, to leave the bill as proposed by government.
Honorable Chair.
Madam Chair, we concede.
Okay. You're amending the proposal in the bill which you have saying you want to keep? Cut and then Honorable
Yes. Right, Honorable Chair, the international best practice, especially for medical practitioners, has been that if they are being handled sentence term, actually most of the laws they talk of not more than 1 year. The reason is you need the service of this person, but this person is again subject to administrative decision of the professional body. So in a nutshell, actually, we are being extremely harsh when we talk of 18 months, considering that these medical practitioners are even few in numbers. Now, anything that takes them to prison, even 6 months or 8 months, is good enough punitive for them, but also we miss on their services. Right Honorable Chair, I want to seek the indulgence of the Minister, who even is in the right docket and being also a professional. Are we doing a good service when we over-define the punishment term for people that professionally need their services to 18 months? Really? It should be not more than a year, actually. Right? When you read, even, right over chair, I had the pleasure of reading the Act of Canada, Mental Health Act of Canada, the one of UK, which is 2007 amended. It was the 1983 one. It is all about 1 year, and the justification is that you want them back. Any sentence term is good enough for them to be punished, but because we want their service. So I want to employ the chair and the minister. Let's not put it 18 months. If a magistrate decides and says, yes, maximum sentence, 18 months, we are the ones who are going to miss the services because some of these things are out of professional mistakes, not because they have intended.
Let's hear from the mover.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, I think what we proposed here is not exceeding. We are not talking of 18 months. We are saying not exceeding. So 18 is actually the maximum. So the magistrate or whoever it is that is handling this case can even have it as 2 months or 1 month. So, Chair, that is just what I wanted to state.
Can I give information?
Yes, information given.
Honourable Minister, through Madam Chair, once you put it in the law, to be discretionary to the judge sitting, you can give a maximum. But if you give a lower limit, that's what we will follow.
Now, I want to know from the Minister, are we reverting to the old provisions? The provisions that came with the bill, are we reverting to those across the board?
Chair, the chair of the Health Committee considered, he withdrew his amendment. So what stands is what we have in the bill.
And throughout the bill now, therefore?
No, I'm talking about this particular section. This particular section, Chair.
I think we should have uniformity, Chair.
Oh, okay, of course, different sanctions attract different actions attract different
But
sanctions.
the same professionals. And the right of Chair.
To what?
The same section.
No,
No, it's just a small amendment, and it's very useful, Madam Chair. I would prefer, if the Chair would allow, Madam Chair, that we say a member of staff or of mental health or anybody. I want to add that one there. Do you know why?
Under 17?
Yeah, under 17. I would say a member of staff of a mental health unit or anybody who, what if it is the relative, trying to steal this patient out of the mental health unit, and we have been seeing it in several areas. So what wouldn't it be useful? Or any other person? Just
Sewungu, you go to clause 16, 5A. It's already provided for. Yes, on the members, put the question. Clause 17 be amended as proposed. No. I now put the question that clause 17 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Clause 18.
Clause 18. On 18.
No, Chair, I'd put an amendment to 12 months, and I thought it would be reasonable for us to put it to vote.
An amendment for?
12 months rather than 18 months. No, yeah, we are divided, so we could put it to vote. Because my justification is that, Chair, some of these things are not intended by the professionals, and we need their service.
Member,
for heaven's sake.
Don't you see, aren't you crediting the judges, magistrates with the intelligence to say this one will appear an accident, but we'll give him 3 months? The description is there. We have moved from the 18 months. No, we have abandoned the 18. We abandoned the 18.
No, we haven't.
We have.
We haven't. It stays as it is. But, Madam Chairperson, even when we have not abandoned the 18 months, it is very unlikely, like my colleague Anyola is saying, that the health worker aids the escape of the patient. Most likely, those who aid the escape of the patient is the askari or some other staff that are charged with guarding the hospital. It's not likely that the health worker whom he says we need badly at the health unit to come back quickly from the prison will aid the escape of the patient. If you say that the person treating the patient is likely to aid the escape of the patient, what would be his intention? But other workers around the patient, maybe they are likely to. That's why I think 18 is fair.
You see, in a mental health unit, you can be given, let me call it holiday, that, okay, we are changing your location. First go and relax in such a place A. Now, you will come back to the admission point or detention point later because you are going away is part of your healing. Now, technically, a medical officer may actually, within the decision, play around and say, fine, don't come back. When actually you are required to come back. It's not escape as you see where a person is running through the gate per se. That is why we are talking of
Point of procedure.
I'm on procedure.
Right, Honorable Chair. Are we proceeding well? Because, Right Honorable Chair, you have rightly ruled on clause 17 and we took to a vote. So are we proceeding well if again we resume the debate on clause number 17? Thank
you.
Clause 18. Clause 18.
Clause 18. Voluntary admission and treatment. Clause 18 is amended by substituting the clause with the following. 1. A person with mental illness who has not attained the apparent age of 18 years, who has attained the apparent age of 18 years and submits voluntarily to a health unit or a mental health unit shall be received or admitted as a voluntary patient by the health unit or mental unit and is entitled to voluntary treatment. 2. A person with mental illness who has not attained the apparent age of 18 years and whose parent or guardian by application desires to submit him or her for treatment to a health unit or a mental health unit shall be received or admitted as a voluntary patient by the health unit or mental health unit and is entitled to voluntary treatment. 3. The application mentioned under subsection 2 may be verbal or written. 3. That would be 4. A person received as a voluntary patient under this section may leave the health unit or mental health unit upon giving the person in charge 72 hours notice of his intention to leave, and if he or she is a person who has not attained the apparent age of 18 years, upon such notice being given by his parent or guardian, and the release shall be at the discretion of the person in charge of the health unit or mental health unit. 4. A voluntary patient shall only receive treatment after giving informed consent to the treatment.
Okay, now what? Then Babali.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm looking at Amendment 3, where the committee is saying a person received as a voluntary. Okay, it's about informing the person in charge to allow them leave. Madam Chair, I was just wondering whether it's not the medical personnel who determine the condition of the patient and says, fine, the patient now seems to have improved and can therefore go. Or if it means referring the patient for further management elsewhere, it is still the medical personnel to authorize that. To me, Madam Chair, that Amendment 3 is redundant.
Yeah, Madam Chair, when you look at this voluntary admission and treatment, it sounds very good, but there is no safe gadgets as who is a voluntary person to be treated. I think before they embark on any treatment, he must be examined thorough to prove that he's actually sick. Otherwise, some criminals can hide under this provision and they hide into the mental institution claiming to be sick. So I'm of the opinion, Madam Speaker, let's put a clause after one, a voluntary admission and treatment subject to the health officials proving that he's actually sick.
Can the minister give us a rationale for the voluntary? It's a proposal from the chair. Yes, Minister.
The clarification here, Madam Chair, is that part of the treatment is actually the examination, because you can go claiming that I have malaria, and part of the treatment is to tell you that you don't have malaria. So in this particular case, we are in order. We are in order. Part of the treatment will be to tell you you're not, you don't have any mental illness, you're okay, you can go. Madam Chair, when you look at the word guardian in paragraph 2, in section 2, under children, we do not recommend the word guardian, because substituting a parent is through a care order, and anybody doing the work of a parent is called a caretaker. I thank you.
But so, suppose you have an order of guardianship, what happens? You can't use it? Suppose you have an order of guardianship, you can't use it?
I thank you, Right Honorable Chair, but I believe the caretakership is broader than the guardianship. It takes care of, but I take your guidance, Madam Chair.
I think we should leave the guardian. But before we go for join me in welcoming pupils and teachers of Adiel Primary School. Is that you? Adiel? Please stand up. They're represented by Honorable Akena and Honorable Joy Atim. They are from Lira. Welcome. Now, Minister, can you give the rationale for the voluntary admission and treatment?
Chair, the voluntary admission and treatment is different from the involuntary. And this is what I want members to understand. The voluntary treatment arises where somebody, like I am here and I know, I feel I have a problem, then I personally go to the health facility. So it is not, you know, it's not like the involuntary, where Honorable Mbabali was talking that you may be subjected to certain things. So you willingly yourself go to the health facility to be assisted. So, Chair, I think what Honorable Mbabali was raising applies in the involuntary, not in the under the voluntary. Okay. Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I would like to seek clarification from Honorable Minister. When a person comes to the hospital voluntarily, and in the process, his sickness escalates, whereby he becomes unconscious, what will happen to such person? He came voluntarily, but from the hospital, the situation wasn't.
But he has now come to the hospital and he's under treatment. Honour members, I put the question that clause 18 to be amended.
No, Madam Chair, before Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, sorry. I think the Honorable Mbabali had a point, but the Minister did not understand it. You can volunteer yourself to the health unit, feeling sick, or you think you have a mental problem, mental illness. But the Honorable Mbabali is asking, if a person feigns mental illness and volunteers themselves to the hospital, perhaps to take advantage of benefit from whatever benefits the patient will take, what do we do? That's why he's proposing we put a clause just immediately after to say the patient shall be confirmed, they must be confirmed by the health workers in the hospital. That's the point he's raising.
Yeah.
Chair, where a person walks into any health facility, you are expected to be examined by this health profession. They just can't administer any drug. So these psychiatrists take time to talk to you and gauge whether you are pretending or not, or whether, Chair, so even when you go and you're suffering from any disease, any other, let's look at what happens, assuming we may not have visited a mental health facility. I have taken patients there myself, and they take time to interrogate this person to see whether it is they are mad or it is something spiritual, it is, you know, they take their time, Chair. So it is not something that, you know, you can just be given treatment. Even malaria, we first diagnose to see whether you really have malaria. Okay, clarification, I take that.
Now,
yes.
Madam Chair, thank you, Honourable Minister. For me, I feel, Madam Chair, I am in agreement with the Minister, but why don't we go with the Section 18 in the bill? We put an amendment to it, whereby we put there that this person must have been, the doctor will be convinced. Yes, you have given voluntary submission, but the doctor must be satisfied that this person is mentally ill.
Madam
Yes,
Chair.
But have you read Section 18.1?
Madam Chair.
Have you read 18.1 of the bill?
Madam Chair.
Have you read 18.1 of the bill?
This one.
Madam Chair. Madam Chair.
Yes, Honorable Kamsina.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Needless to mention is a criteria for admission of any patient in health facility. They are laid down procedures for any condition. And honorable members, I tell you that when we talk about mental illness, it's a variety of so many illnesses, including depression or stress. So a patient may feel different, or a relative may advise that according to your condition, please go and check in the health facility. When you go to the health facility, indeed the doctor must satisfy beyond doubt that you need treatment and you are sick. Beyond that, you will never receive any treatment. That is why wrongdoers who hide under the coverage of being mad or having lost sense, they are always discovered and disapproved by doctors making what we call a mental state examination. So let's not worry and redo work that has already been done under the medical procedures. I thank you.
Chair.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
thank you very
Chair.
much.
Baseke, or both then Kata.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Who is the
To add on to what Honorable
Is a member of the committee.
Pentagon has just described, and the Minister also said it. When you look at this clause, subsection 1, I'm a member of the committee, but I'm trying to clarify, because we interacted with the people, stakeholders. It is already implied before you give treatment, you have ascertained that there is a disease you're treating. So there is no need to include that, the doctor must satisfy. Because we are talking about is entitled to voluntary treatment. That entitlement comes after the doctor ascertaining that this person is sick. So it is already implied, we don't need to add anything.
Honorable, or both then Kata.
Right, Honorable Chair, this is very simple thing. And if the Minister had yielded to the clarification, what can be comforting to members is to see, probably, for them, they don't know that it's automatic. You can't just walk into a health facility and say, I am unwell.
I need a bed.
I need to be admitted. Now, at least when, if that is one of the signs of the sickness, yes, but still you will be examined. Can it now be, to sort out this, can we put just immediately after being received, comma, examined or admitted? assessed, we could replace the word received, assessed, or admitted. So that is, but I thought it's a medical facility.
But Chair.
Assessment, that should be able to resolve this matter just immediately after receiving. Because even as it is there, that could go a long way in probably understanding what he said. That now when you go, it is like automatic. When you go there, you will be received or admitted. But if you state the procedure, received, assessed or examined,
information,
and or admitted.
Information.
So we put in some process.
Chair.
Honourable members, you know, you can't just walk in and say, I want to be on bed number 3.
Correct.
No, they say, who are you? I'm both. Where did you come from? West Rudama. What is the issue? Then they assess you, and then, you know.
Chair, I think, Chair, I think I was next, Chair.
Chair, can I just propose what Honorable Both is talking about? Of course, as I said before, it is standard practice that any patient who goes to any facility must be examined and whatever you're suffering from diagnosed before treatment can be given. But it's for emphasis, there is no harm. But I want to propose, Chair, that we take it to 2, because Clause 2 says a voluntary patient shall only receive treatment after giving consent to the treatment. So you shall receive treatment after diagnosis, I mean after examination.
Are you now prescribing the work of the doctor in the law?
Chair,
No,
Chair, I am not.
Chair.
I am not. I indicated that the doctors do their work, but members are insisting that for
No, honor members, we are not going to just agree because members want. That you say, doctor, you wear a black tie on that day. Start straight when you exam. No.
Then you have a mental problem.
Right, Honourable Speaker. Right, Honourable Chair.
Honor members, I
Right,
put the
Honourable Chair.
question that clause 18
one
be
point.
amended as proposed. Those in favour say aye,
Honourable
the
Chair.
contrary no. Ayes have it.
Clause 18 as amended.
Put the question that clause 18 as amended do stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Clause 19.
Put the question that clause 19 do stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Clause 20.
Put the question that clause 20 do stand part of the bill. Clause 20.
Chairperson, looking at the object of the bill, it talks about care, it talks about human rights. I would like to humbly request this, honourable members, to accept this. We want these people, after discharge, actually to go and be integrated into the community. And Chairperson, bearing in mind that children and women with mental illness suffer a lot of abuses and stigma and discrimination. I had come up with an addition after 23 to insert this, that the state shall provide gender and age-sensitive assistance and support for persons with mental illness, their families and caregivers, including through the provision of information and education on how to avoid, recognize, and report instances of exploitation, violence, and abuse. Honorable Chair.
Yes,
I thank my colleague, Right Honourable Chair, for that amendment. But, Madam Chair, by the time you leave after treatment, it is assumed that you're no longer a patient with mental problems under this bill. So we are under no obligation to handle conditions of people who have left the bracket of mental illness. We have so many laws and bylaws within the Ministry of Gender that take care of resettlement schemes and then after patient care, and it's a long debate. So I'm of the view that we stick to the condition of mental health that is the subject matter for the bill. Right, Honourable Chair.
Honourable Chair, people who suffer, I am talking from experience. No, I'm not. Chairperson, people who actually suffer from mental illness, sometimes it's a permanent condition, sometimes it's on and off. So, Dr. Mkenya also knows, people have come to his committee, they have submitted that at least instead of being institutionalized, they would prefer to be settled in the community.
Now, honourable members, I really want to caution, you know, the Court of Appeal in Mbale took issue very much with our going beyond the objectives of the bill. Let us first please concentrate on mental health and treatment for now. Let's not run into areas where we are going to crash. Yes.
Right, Honorable Chair, this particular clause is on discharge of patient under assisted admission. What she's talking about is after care services, which in developed countries will be a standalone clause that if somebody had mental case and has been attended to, those aftercare services to resettle the person so that his or her situation does not regenerate back into mental disorder. And I think your guidance is right, because if we included that under this, it would mean she's talking of care after you have been discharged under assisted admission. So in a nutshell, Chair, that also brings the question of, if we had foreseen all this, the long title of the bill, the short title, and so on, would have captured all this, because I know there are people when they come out of mental health facilities, because of that aftercare service that they miss, they regenerate into mental disorder back. Thank you.
I put the question that clause 20 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. I have it.
Clause 21.
Put the question that clause 21 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. I have it.
Clause 22.
Put the question that clause 22 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no.
Clause 23.
Put the question that clause 23 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. I have it.
Clause 24.
Put the question that clause 24 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. I have it.
Clause 25.
Put the question that clause 25 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. I have it.
Clause 26.
Put the question that clause 26 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. I have it.
Clause 27.
I put the question that clause 27 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. I have it.
Clause 28.
I put the question that clause 28 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. I have it.
Clause 29.
I put the question that clause 29 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. I have it.
Clause 30.
I put the question that clause 30 do stand part of the bill. Yes, clause 30.
Chair, on clause 30, the cost of transferring a person who is not ordinary resident in Uganda to another country shall be borne as may be agreed between the government and the mental health unit of the country where the person is to be sent. Chair, I can be resident in the US and I come here, I develop mental case, but I am a Ugandan. Why must we ask US, for example, or any other country where I'm resident, to meet the cost of transporting me to the state or any other country where I'm going to receive treatment? I think this is where we need to, if you are resident, but you are a resident in another country, but you are a Ugandan, I think your transportation to and fro, or maybe from that country back to Uganda, I think it is our country to bear the burden. Why should we make arrangement with the US or the country in which I'm resident to bear the burden? And what if they refuse? What will be my right under that arrangement?
The rationale?
Chair, I think I would have appreciated better if Honorable Nyuarach gave us what he's thinking, the proposal. What amendment do you want to make? Rather than, you know, because for us, in our thinking was that this person who has a mental challenge and is resident in Uganda or another country, and
it's dealing with this provision is about someone who's not ordinary resident here.
Let me read. Chair, some members don't have the bill, but let me read as it is. The cost of transferring a patient who is not ordinarily resident in Uganda to another country shall be borne as may be agreed between the government and the mental health unit of the country where the person is supposed to be sent.
Madam Chair. Madam Chair, thank you very much. If, let me say, a U.S. citizen, or any other citizen, let me say, or a Kenyan, let me say, Kenyan citizen, if that was the situation, Madam Speaker, the international arrangement is that the candidates under this particular situation will be referred to the embassy. And actually the law, the international law provides that there is nothing that you can undertake on that particular person without informing the embassies or their missions residing in the country. I don't know whether really it would serve any purpose, because the reason why I'm contributing this is there is already an international provision that in the event that scenario happens, then it should be, a reference should be made to their missions at home here.
But can't those issues be contained in the regulations? Because now those are procedures after a decision has been taken to send someone to go home.
Yeah. So, Madam Speaker, that's the reason why I'm saying those details or specifics and all support be part of our bill, because the arrangements, they're already covered under the international law. Thank you.
Honour members, you still have an issue with the clause 30?
Right, Honourable Chair. This provision is imposing an obligation on another country to transport their mental patient from Uganda to their country. The situation I was raising is the Ugandan, for example, resident in Iraq and develops a mental case. Can't we take it as our obligation to transport under transfer of person with mental illness to another country? Why don't we also look at our own Ugandans, okay, who are resident out, but they need to come back? Or a Ugandan who is a resident maybe in Zambia, gets a mental case when he had visited here, okay, and is willing to go back to receive treatment in Zambia. What is our obligation? Because we are imposing obligation on another foreign country, but we are running away from our own. Chair, that is my concern. So,
Honour members, let's concentrate on the bill. Let us not create new provisions. Please, put the question that clause 30 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Clause 31.
Put the question that clause 31 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Clause 32.
Put the question that clause 32 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Clause 33.
Put the question that clause 33 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Clause 34.
Put the question that clause 34.
Second last line, sub-clause 2, second last line, Madam Chair, which says, seek the opinion of another mental practitioner. I would think we need the word health there so that it reads, seek the opinion of another mental health practitioner. We insert the word health there immediately after the word mental, in the second last paragraph of subclause 2.
Okay. Minister?
Chair, I think we're okay with that.
Thank you. I put the question that clause 34 be amended as proposed. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no.
Clause 34 as amended.
Put the question that clause 34 as amended do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Clause 35.
Put the question that clause 35 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Clause 36.
36, Honorable Chair.
Clause 36, respect human dignity and privacy. Clause 36 is amended by 1, by inserting immediately after subclause 1 the following new subclauses to read. 2, subject to such limitations as are prescribed by law, a person with mental illness shall not be subjected to any form of torture or cruel, inhuman or degrading treatment or punishment. Justification: to protect persons with mental illness from abuse and ill treatment. 3, subject to such limitations as prescribed by law, a person with mental illness has the right to protection from physical, economic, social, sexual, and other forms of exploitation and abuse. Justification: to ensure the protection of the mentioned rights of persons with mental illness.
The members, I put the question that clause 36 be amended as proposed. Yes, Honorable Watkins.
Madam Chair, I have just a minor observation with that. Like in the US, no employer will hire you without really running through that employment form. And one of those questions that they ask is your mental history, your stability or stability. Now, this, Madam Speaker, Madam Chair, this particular clause is not clear or adequate enough to say, okay, maybe you were just going through some mental stress kind of for just a moment. But the records, the medical records, indicate that you have gone through a mental instability situation, and that becomes part of you. I'm wondering, Madam Chair, whether at this point in time it's not possible for us to specifically qualify the privacy and confidentiality, that depending of a particular situation, this may not be part of your history. Because I walk into your office, Madam Speaker, the appointments, I'm appearing before the appointments board that you chair, committee that you chair, and what I have among my credentials is that there was some that mental history, and I'm just wondering whether that would not bias or influence the decision of you, the chairperson of that committee, or the panelists or your members. I'm specifically addressing your attention, drawing your attention, Madam Chair, to the confidentiality and a privacy clause, because this is not really particularly qualified. Thank you.
I don't know whether you are saying that if you once had a mental illness and you recovered, you've come now to the appointments committee, you must show whether, unless there's an objection about your status, if there is, then I would have to ask you and say, did you spend some time in the other place?
Madam Chair, thank you very much. I think we might take it a little lightly, but this is something that could have some long-term bearing on an individual. Because A scientist will tell you 99% have got that mental disability issue, including myself. Because if I capture myself within the statistics of scientists, they will tell you 99%. Probably 99% is as good as 100%, madam.
Watkins, there's no requirement to carry a certificate of sanity in this country. There's no requirement. So I will not ask. I will not ask. It's not a requirement. To carry a certificate of sanity, it's not a requirement in our law.
Okay, Madam Chair, thank you very much.
Madam Chairperson, as you've rightly guided, and in most cases, if there is evidence, you are the one to give it. Or when anybody, you are describing anybody, like in legal proceedings, you will have to refer to Honorable Tushabe Atkins, Katushabe, as believed to be of sound mind. Nobody has a right, unless you volunteer that you are not of sound. That is discrimination, and I think it's well covered, Honorable Atkins. It's well covered.
Honourable members,
without.
I put the question that clause 36 be amended as proposed. Those in favour say aye, the contrary no. I submit.
Clause 36 as amended.
Put the question that clause 36 as amended do stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye, the contrary no.
Clause 37.
37.
Let the chair move first, please.
Clause 37, non-discrimination of persons with mental illness. Clause 37 is amended, 1, by deleting the head note, the word prohibited appearing at the end. 2, by substituting in subclause 2 for the word similar, the word equitable, justification for clarity. 3, by inserting immediately after subclause 4 a new subclause to read, appropriate action under subsection 4 shall be in accordance with the employment laws and other laws of Uganda. Justification to ensure fair treatment to persons with mental health and protection of their employment.
No, Sophia? Okay. No what?
Madam Chair, an amendment has been made to clause 37, and I would imagine that when we look at arrangement of clauses on page 2, Madam Chair, we also have, just a moment, yeah, down there on page 2, 37. We've just made an amendment to it, but now we also need to amend that on the arrangement of clauses for conformity with what we have just amended, Madam Chair.
That one we shall do at the end. Our legal officers will renumber the clauses sequentially.
Madam Chair.
On the members.
Madam Chair, on issues of inheritance, it's talking about rights. You know, it's talking about discrimination. It is not only on issues of employment. I've seen people who are writing wills. I've seen people who are distributing property, and maybe such persons also have a right. Their rights should be protected. If somebody has recovered, the person should be protected to the extent that they are able to benefit like the rest. I don't know whether that is provided already for.
Under our law, when you are lucid, even if you have been mad, but we have lucid moments, you are able to execute a contract during that time, and it is valid. Yes. Yes, it is valid. Yes. Honourable members, I put the question that clause 37 be amended as proposed. Those in favour say aye, the contrary no.
Clause 37 as amended.
Put the question that clause 37 as amended do stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye, the contrary no.
Clause 38.
Put the question, 38. Clause 38.
38.
Clause 38, exploitation and abuse. Clause 38(2) is amended by substituting the subclause with the following. An employee of a mental health unit who contravenes this section commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a fine not exceeding 100.
Well, we do apologize for cutting you short, but we definitely have to update you on the latest updates in our news items, and that will take us to Habari shortly. But as regarding what is still on the floor of Parliament, it is to do with the second reading of the Mental Health Bill 2014, and we shall definitely update you on how it's been concluded, whether amended for the day in our timely news hours. All you have to just keep watching as we inspire you. Well, today has been the 23rd sitting, the first meeting of the third session of the 10th Parliament of Uganda, and right on the agenda, like I earlier on said, that we're going to be having a laying on table of different papers and pending reports, and there we had a report that was presented to the August House by the Honourable Minister of Finance, Honourable Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, clarifying on the concerns that were raised by the Minister of Health on the floor of Parliament in regard to the effect of the Integrated Financial Management System, the IFMS, on the operations on National Medical Stores, NMS. Now, there he said that he provided this particular statement saying it is to provide clarification on the rationale of having National Medical Store operate on the Integrated Financial Management System like any other government institution whose funding is charged on the consolidated fund so appropriated by Parliament. And he continued to say that the Integrated Financial Management System is one of the major public financial management reforms that was introduced and adopted by government to enhance accountability of public funds. It is also a tool that facilitates a tracking of budgets from appropriation to expenditure management and eventually to accountability. Now, in addition, government abolished the operations of government accounts in commercial banks and required all government institutions to open accounts in Bank of Uganda to facilitate the operations under the Treasury single account, which has greatly improved the management of government revenue and boosted the government cash flows. Now, that is the clarification that we saw Honourable Bahati present to the floor of Parliament as regarding National Medical Stores put on the Integrated Financial Management System, a pending report that came through regarding a query that the Honourable Minister of Health put to the floor of Parliament that we saw today. And still on the floor of Parliament is to do with the Mental Health Bill 2014. Bill, I want to explain to you that its objective is to provide for treatment of the persons with mental illness at primary health centres, to also provide for admission in for the treatment and for the discharge from health units and the mental health units of persons with mental illness, to also ensure that persons with mental illnesses are enabled to seek treatment voluntarily, to also ensure the safety and protection of those persons with mental illness and protection of their rights and the safety of the people who come into contact with them, and to establish the Mental Health Advisory Board. Now, if that comes if that is amended, we shall most definitely update you. It's been a pleasure having your company. Join me yet again for tomorrow's plenary session, which will be winding up plenary activities as far as the August House is concerned. That is tomorrow from the hour of 2 p.m. Keep watching as we inspire you. And shortly, Bella Masangano is on standby here at Broadcast House, Nile Avenue, to give you the latest news items from Habari. My name is Sandra Kahundagawa, wishing you a blessed evening.
you.